Morning, everyone. Thank you, Binu, for making the time. I'm super excited to talk about a topic that affects all of us. Got my iPad along just to make sure that I don't miss any questions to you. I'm going to get straight into it. VCCI and VBCSD, under the government of Vietnam, have awarded Nestle the most sustainable company for 2 years in a row now. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? An applause, please.
Yeah, before I get to that, first of all, thank you, Warwick, for making our topic far easier. I promise I didn't pay him before this. He spoke about the role of sustainability in consumer lives today, and that's exactly what we will be talking about. But coming back to your question, Ashish, yes, it's true. VBCSD, VCCI has awarded us as the #1 most sustainable company in Vietnam 2 years in a row. And for those of you who are not aware, the sustainability definition there is much broader than most people think. It's about the broader sustainable development goals of the UN and how corporates are living those sustainable development goals and practicing it. So it goes into women empowerment, climate change, water conservation, poverty alleviation, things like that. So in the last 29 years that Nestle has been here in Vietnam, we have integrated social development and sustainable development into the way we do business. So just to give you an example, we were one of the first companies in Vietnam to commit to becoming plastic neutral and also water neutral by 2025. And how we do that is a long story, maybe for another discussion. But just to give you another example, we have also been partnering with the Vietnam Women's Union and trying to help women in rural areas to become entrepreneurs by imparting education, by building their capability on digital, on business, etc. But one of the things that we are most proud of in Vietnam is the work we do with coffee farmers. Some of you may know that Vietnam is the world's largest producer of Robusta coffee. And Nestle, we buy about 20 to 25% of all the coffee that Vietnam produces. So it's our responsibility to make sure that the coffee that we buy here is not only sustainable for the environment, but also makes a sustainable living for the farmers. So just to give you an example, in the last 10 years, 12 years to be exact, we have rejuvenated 56,000 hectares of coffee farms. And as a result, the coffee farmers have been able to reduce 40% of water usage, 20% of pesticide use, and their income levels have gone up from 50 to 130% by introducing things like intercropping and reducing the usage of water. So today, the productivity of coffee in Vietnam is 3 times higher than the global average, 3 times. And we're very proud that a large part of that has to do with the work that Nestle has been doing together with the Ministry of Agriculture. So this is the plan that I was talking about, working with the farmers, and this is one of the reasons why we have been able to build our relationship with the government on the sustainable story, and this is one of the reasons, Ashish, how the government has rewarded us with this award.
We know a lot of grassroots work, clearly, that is being done, and especially for productivity going up 3 times. But at the end of all this, how do you make it relevant to the consumer? Does the consumer really care?
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, first of all, to be clear, the reason why we are doing this is because we believe this is the right thing to do. We are committed to making sure that every activity that we do in the business is done in a sustainable manner. So this is to some extent the cost of doing business. But at the same time, we also have to make sure that there is a return on investment on this cost that we are investing in. So for a long time, the team was thinking, how can you make a story like this and bring it to the consumer? So the first time we tried something was in 2020. And we said, we took learnings from Nestle in Mexico, where we have a similar program. And we said, how do we make it relevant to the consumers? The first thing we did was, we brought the story to life on all our packs. So for almost a 3-month period, all the Nescafe packs in the market were changed to this sustainable coffee farmer story. We put the coffee farmers' pictures front of pack, and we had their stories on the back of pack. And it was almost like a thank you to all the farmers. But we didn't end here. We took the story and took it on social media. and started investing in Facebook communication and talking about this farmer story and thanking the farmers for actually helping us save the environment. But I have to be very honest, this didn't work. It didn't move the needle. 3 months after we did this, we checked our brand health, and there was absolutely no change to a brand that cares for the environment, which is the measure that we track. So the question we asked ourselves is why? After all this effort and after all the work that we're doing, we thought it was a sexy story. It simply didn't connect. But the answer to that, on hindsight, like everything in life is, you look back and you know why. This was a manufacturer-led story. It didn't start from the consumer. No consumer, especially the young consumers, didn't want to hear a story which was one-sided, had no relevance in their lives. So this was a learning for us, and we had to step back and say, okay, we did something, it didn't work.
These stories are very inspiring, especially the part about a brand that cares for the environment and didn't move the needle, right? So what I wanted to do is share with us, therefore, how do you make consumers choose your brand? How do you make or drive brand choices?
Yeah. Just to add to that also is, it wasn't that we didn't invest enough. Actually, we invested a lot of money behind this. But the learning for us is, after all that investment, the awareness didn't go up. Why? Because for the consumer, this was not a relevant story for them to even remember. So the second time we did this, think about the situation. This was 2021, I think around September, October, when the team sat and re-looked at this whole thing. And we said, let's come back to what this brand is all about and what the consumer need is at that point in time. This brand, Nescafe, as many of you know, is globally the biggest coffee brand in the world. And what this brand is all about is to make your everyday life better with your everyday cup of coffee. Very simple, making your everyday life better. And from the consumer point of view, just think about most of you, I'm sure in the room are consumers of Nescafe. September, October 2021, when Vietnam was just coming out of the COVID, people were extremely stressed out. Why? Because they were stressed out about working from home. They were also stressed out about the possibility of going back to work. And in a time like this, we thought about it and we said, how can we bring their everyday life? How can we make the everyday life of the consumer in Vietnam better? How can we bring more positivity into their lives? And this is how the team came up with the idea of using music. Music as a way to de-stress people's lives. Music as a way to make people relax. And that's when we came up with this concept of creating a music album, sorry. And this is what you see on Yeah, so it doesn't come out very obviously unless I tell you what it is about. This music album was created by Vietnam's most famous music producer, Tuliver. And the voice behind it is a young millennial singer called Mian, also I believe the daughter of a diva in Vietnam. So they came together, they visited our farms, and they listened to the sound of the farms, the sound of the water flowing in the farms, the sound of the cherries being picked during the coffee picking time, so on and so forth. That inspired them to make this music. And every song in this music is based on a story of the coffee farming. So whether it is cherishing the water preservation when you do coffee farming, whether it is preserving the soil in the coffee farming, the lyrics are actually kind of connected with the Nescafe farm story. And we used music as a hook to get people in. It became so popular, we got 23 million mobile streams on this music album. And through the story, we communicated the Nescafe sustainability story. And of course, we amplified this. We went on social media. And the great piece of news is, this time around, we got a 9% uplift in a brand that cares for the environment. And even better, which for me as the CEO of the company, what Rohit was talking about, business sense, we got a 10% uplift in brand used most often amongst millennials. So this is for us an outstanding learning of trying to really tell your sustainability story through an angle that is relevant to the consumer at that point in time.
I notice you have a QR code over here. Does that lead to the album?
Yeah, so if anybody is interested in in downloading the entire album, the QR code is right here. Use your phones, scan it, download it, listen on your favorite streaming platform, whether it is Spotify or anything else.
So post this activity, obviously there were a lot of learnings, but the consumer has evolved and COVID is now hopefully all over. So were there any learnings that you carried from there?
Yeah, interesting one. Now, this consumer insight is not a static insight. It keeps evolving over time. So the insight at that particular point in time is not relevant in 2022 when things came back to normal. So again, through social listening, what the team found is consumers are still stressed. In 2021, they were stressed about everything, from going back to work to working from home, to everything. 2022 was a slightly different kind of stress. And again, most of you can relate to it. People came back to work. The responsibilities came back. A lot of stuff on their plate. From time to time, people were looking to take a break and get away from it all. Go to their me time. Go out of office, go into a farm, go camping. These were the kind of stuff that we were hearing on social media. And we said, with an insight like that, how can Nescafe still enrich their everyday life?
I believe this also won a lot of awards. And while stress was relevant in 21, and we had a very different mindset then, mindsets have changed. People are now more hopeful of the future. 22 and now 23, things are quite different. So how has this gone on for Nescafe as well as for Nestle?
Yes, so that's how using that insight that people needed to take a break and get away from it all, we came up with this concept called Nescafe Detox. It's about detoxing your mind, just like how you detox from life and get away, go to a farm, go to a campsite. And I understand those of you who are Vietnamese here, the D in the detox, there is a double meaning in this. The D actually means, if I'm not mistaken, go faster, go. Right? So it's go and detox. So it was also a nudge and a push to the consumers to say, take your time off, get away from it all and go and relax and detox your mind. So this time around, we did it a bit differently. Also remember, we didn't have the constraints of production like we had in 2021. We only could do music. This time we decided to do talk shows. And we picked Vietcetera as a platform because we thought it was relevant for the consumer target group for us, which is roughly 25 to 35. And what we did was we got 4 celebrities. Some of you may know Mian, she came back. Thuy Minh, who is one of the most popular MCs here in Vietnam. And also Tu, who's a very famous fashion model, if I'm not mistaken. So we got these celebrities on the show. It was just 3 episodes where they talk about stress in their lives and how they overcome their everyday stress. And the beauty of this whole thing was, it was all shot in our coffee farm. So the environment, and every now and then, every response from these celebrities was somehow connected back to the coffee farm. For instance, they said, your mind is like a coffee farm. Every now and then, when your mind starts aging. When your mind starts aging, you need to rejuvenate it with fresh thoughts, fresh ideas, just like what you do in a coffee farm. Every 13 years, we have to completely rejuvenate the coffee farm, bring in new plantlets, high-yielding, disease-resistant, compare it to the soil, how you refresh the soil. So every discussion somehow was connected back to coffee, and we told the story in a much better way. And this time, the results were even better. We got about 100 million impressions in just 1 month. And the beauty is, the brand that cares for the environment went up another 10% versus the previous round. And the boomer went up 21% versus the previous round. So this was an absolutely fantastic campaign. And for us, it's like generative AI. It keeps getting better and better as our learning improves.
You have a video? You have a video?
You can play a quick clip from the...
Nescafe tự hào là nhãn hàng tiên phong hướng đến nền nông nghiệp tái sinh trong canh tác cà phê tại Việt Nam.
This is amazing work, but so far you've only spoken about Nescafe. You have a vast portfolio of brands. Are you extending this to other brands too?
Actually, we have been doing this across most of our portfolio now. Another one, which of course our biggest brand in Vietnam is Milo. Right? And in Milo, the challenge is a little bit different from the Nescafe one, and our approach was also different. So in Milo, we took the bold decision back in 2020 that we will move out of plastic straws completely. And we started enforcing this slowly but surely, and in 2021, we got everything out. Now, think about the scale of this. One of the largest food brands in Vietnam, we had, I cannot tell you the exact number, millions and millions of straws. And the paper straws actually cost 3 times more than the plastic straws. So it's a huge business decision to make this jump. And at the same time, when we did a consumer test, we found that 70% of consumers were neutral to this. Roughly 10% were very happy, and they would probably buy more Milo if we did this. But 20% were not happy with this. They didn't want it. And we had to take a business call to say, do we do this given the consumer today is probably not ready? We took the call and we said, we will still do it because it's the right thing to do. And we lead the consumer rather than wait for the consumer to be ready. So the approach here was a bit different because we said, if you want to make a step change, you have to think a little bit differently. You have to lead the consumer. So here's what we did. At the same time, the government of Vietnam more or less had made the commitment at COP26 to become net zero. So the entire government machinery that we were talking to, everybody wanted to do something for the environment. We took the opportunity, we went to the Ministry of Environment and we said, hey, we're doing this. We are taking a bold call to take plastic straws out. And we all know if you go to the oceans in Vietnam or the landfills, you'll see a lot of these plastic straws everywhere. They simply do not degenerate. And the government was excited because here was a company that was doing the right thing. So they supported us. We had a partnership with the Ministry of Environment. We did an MOU with them. We got a lot of PR. And we leveraged that PR and then took it to social. Now on social, of course, you have to do this differently because the consumer is not fully ready. So we leveraged the government initiative and we leveraged the sense of nationalism that exists in each and every Vietnamese here. Vietnamese are very proud of being Vietnamese. We leveraged that sentiment and we made a campaign asking Vietnamese to pledge their support for this plastic straw. And as a result, we had about 500,000 consumers in Vietnam pledging their support to supporting the plastic straw, and they would say no to supporting paper straw and no to plastic straws. And again, as a result, we got very, very good numbers on the BOOMO. The BOOMO went up 4%, not as much as the Nescafe campaign. But the fact is, this is a slow burn. This is not going to be as quick and as successful as the Nescafe one because it's about changing consumer perceptions. That takes longer. So we are on the journey. We're making progress year after year. The acceptance is getting better and better. And we are pretty sure that because we are the first movers, over time, the consumer will reward us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I believe our time is up, but I think we can talk for a couple of more minutes.
I've spoken a lot about what we do here in Nestle. And I know from the agency side, I know you have many of your agency colleagues here as well. So I'm very curious to really understand, what do agencies do to support sustainability?
Well, there is obviously a concerted effort that is going on from the agency's end too. You mentioned about it being a slow burn, and it is a slow burn. Let me put it this way, is that as I scan my eye across the room, there are a lot of people over here who are on their mobile or on their watches or on some screen or the other. And each of these cost us power to burn up. And this all adds up to carbon emissions. So what we are doing right now is, on this journey, we're working with a lot of platforms and partners to make sure that they are carbon neutral over a period of time. and therefore reduce their carbon emissions. So that's a journey that we've just about started, and we hope to achieve that over the next 3 to 5 years. Right now, what's a polite request from clients in terms of how many carbon neutral partners you work with will soon become a demand, and that will drive our choices. So this is one way in which we are working towards the environment. The other thing is the overall mindshare approach, which is a trifecta of 3 factors, which you see up here on the slide. One of them being understanding your growth ambitions as clients, to make sure that we're very sure and very sharp in terms of knowing where you expect your growth to come from, your source of growth, your source of business. Second thing we do is to really sharply define the audience. Who are we chasing? And therefore, how sharply can we identify them? And how efficiently and effectively can we reach them? And finally, the third part, which is the assets that we work very closely with our creative partners to make sure that the assets that are pushed out are effective and help the consumer reach their destination as fast as they can. So with the trifecta of these 3, we do something called precisely human intelligence, which is what you see up there, which drives our approach towards making sure that at some point in the future, over the next 3 to 5 years, we also achieve and partner you in your sustainability journey. That is what we wanted to share. I think we have a couple of minutes for a Q&A. Any quick questions anybody has, we can take a couple of them right now.
Okay, I also got this message that our time's up.
But we are around. We can speak during lunch. I'm more than happy to take any questions later. Thank you so much, Binu. This was really insightful.
Thank
An
you.
amazing chat.